that. They love you. I have to tell you, a lot of people were very excited when I told them you were on this show, and I think they say, I want to hear what you would say to him, because they see us as similar, like we're both badasses. Do you feel like a badass?
Less and less every year, but we're both from New Jersey, yes?
And we're both the same age.
And New Jersey.
And we both
Athens of the Hudson. It's cultural megalopolis.
Yeah.
What exit?
Yeah, right. Like number one, I think. Right across the bridge.
Speaking of exits, I saw you eating an asshole the other day.
You know,
I mean, that's why I say you're a badass. You're braver than me, as you are. You travel to places I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
You eat things I wouldn't eat.
It's going to be on my headstone, isn't it? You know, here, yeah. Anthony Bourdain, he ate an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I see myself as a cultural ambassador of sorts, or at least as a good guest. A lot of people are really good to me around the world. I was a guy who stood in a kitchen for most of his adult life. I never expected to have the best gig in the world. You know, I travel around going wherever I want. People are incredibly nice to me. People with whom I have nothing in common are incredibly nice to me and give me whatever they have. So I like to live by the grandma rule as I travel. Meaning, I mean, I like grandma's turkey, but I'm going to eat it and I'll have seconds and I'll say thank you, grandma. It was delicious, no matter how bad it or nasty it might be.
But I mean, you do go all over the world, and I find a political dimension to your show that, I mean, I sometimes learn more about the world watching your show than CNN, which may say something about CNN, but...
I mean, food is... I try to stay away from politics on the show, but we land in it a lot, whether we're caught in a conflict or just simply... Food is, in and of itself, political.
It is.
What people eat, what they're not eating within a society tells you everything. When we shot in Egypt a year ago, the government handlers wanted to keep us away from a scene where we shot the everyday food of the average Egyptian. The everyday meal is something called fool. It's a bowl of watery lentils with a big stack of bread. For some reason, all our translators and drivers and security guys and embedded spies were all really cagey about this, did not want us to shoot it. Why? What was so scary? The fact is that, you know, that's 80% of their diet at the time, bread, essentially. And the army owns the bakeries. And I think they understood that this was dangerous information. They just didn't want this seen. A simple thing like what our people are forced to eat every day. But there's another dimension to eating. I guess I discovered as I traveled around the world, I'm eating with Wahhabi Muslims, I've been eating with KGB counterintelligence chiefs, former Viet Cong cadres, Cuban functionaries, people with whom I have very, very little in common. I sort of started to ask myself, wait a minute, I'm having a good time at a table, eating a simple meal with people and seeing what I have in common with these people and all these other situations. Why can't I be friends with Ted Nugent? And the fact is...
Now you've gone too far.
The fact is, you know, I think even I may despise much of what the Tea Party claims to stand for. I'm no fan of their advocates. But I think, in fact, if all my travels have taught me, there are things I have in common with the Tea Party.
Well, we do
we both like beer and we both like barbecue, or I do anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's setting the bar really low on having things in common.
But it's something.
We all poop, we all eat, and...
It's something. I mean, and I think it's at some point, the ability to sit down with people and have a beer and eat some delicious slow-cooked pork is the beginning of some kind of a conversation.
Because it's the most primal thing, eating, or maybe sex is. What is, like, if you had to choose between a great meal and mediocre sex, what would you choose?
Well, that's really it calls for a qualitative answer. I mean, you know, depends who's cooking and who's fucking, you know?
Dirty show. All right.
You can go longer without sex than without food, it turns out, biologically, just to clarify that.
So great to have a scientist.
I'm really wary about people who collide the two, who talk about, though I'm guilty of making food porn myself. I mean, it's really kind of the business I'm in, making beautiful images of food that you're probably not going to eat yourself anytime soon. It disturbs me when people talk about how chocolate is really orgasmic and how they like to take food to bed, which I find really, I believe in church and state, separating church and state.
I couldn't agree more.
Eating a chocolate ice cream sundae in bed is
Or eating food as part of sex.
Yeah.
It means you're doing it wrong.
It's
so true.
it adds a whole new meaning. Adds a whole new meaning to
Right.
rolling into the wet spot.
Anything edible.
The chocolate sauce.
Make an exception for whipped cream, though. That
Does
works.
anybody ever feel